everyone, my name is Beata Wilczek and this is Fashion Knowledge, a podcast educating, disrupting and shaping fashion futures. Fashion Knowledge is brought to you by Unfolding Strategies, a consultancy and education lab for digital, inclusive and sustainable fashion in Web3. Hi everyone, welcome. Today our guest is Yifan Pu, who is a Chinese virtual fashion designer and artist currently based in Berlin. Her work has been featured in many amazing places like Vogue, AD, Hunger Magazine, and she worked with such brands and companies like Ouroboros or Anyango Mpinga. She's a member of the global woman 3D artist collective Digital and was also an artist in residence at Helsinki Fashion Week, Factory Berlin, just to name a few. Yifan, it's a pleasure to have you today with us. I know that you are more into fashion as a digital content than physical wearables, as you put it in your own words, because it allows to push the limits of imagination without the consumption and mass production imperatives. So it's almost like a utopia to create fashion without restrictions. And today I would like us to talk about your work, your journey, how did you get to the point that you're in now, and also virtual sampling. So how people like you are actually reshaping the supply chain and production process. This is something that, is very interesting to me. What is the responsibility of the digital fashion designer as you are advocating for zero waste pattern making and involving digital fashion from its very early stages of traditional fashion design workflow, mainly in order to cut down waste in the industry. So yeah, pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. A lot to cover.
Yeah, it's a lot to cover. I hope we can do best of it. So let's jump into the first question. What does it mean to be a virtual fashion designer, and how did you become one?
Yeah, so I became a virtual fashion designer quite accidentally. So as a kid, I was quite obsessed with my mom's fashion magazines, and I would draw the outfits, so draw the items I like from those, or the items that I design myself on paper and then cut them out. Then I have a paper version of a gaming app kind of analog, and then I would play with them on the models I also draw on paper. So I was also I've been always into that, but it was until I studied product design actually back in uni that I realized I'm really bad at making something physical, like making models physically. I'm not handy at all. So I never really dared to actually go towards becoming a physical fashion designer. And then I came to Berlin to do another multimedia related master. And then that just broadened my skill sets by teaching me a lot of other visual related programs again. So I feel I found another visual related program, which is Close 3D, which is what I end up using on a daily basis now as a virtual fashion designer. So they are specialized in simulating clothes in digital form, eventually in pixels. So I just became so addicted to it. Once I found it, I can't resist playing it every day. So I started posting my practice personal works, and then eventually that was shortly before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hits, many brands had this need to find a digital alternative to do the physical shoot and the campaign and everything. So I think that's when digital fashion in my perspective started to grow a bit more. So I feel I'm not long in this field, neither in fashion, but I feel I've been growing together with digital fashion since then.
Yeah, today it's a good question. What does it mean long? Because for some people, somebody who works in digital fashion for 2.5 or 3 years, it's considered almost a veteran, because we're still thinking about quite new stuff, and it's evolving as we speak with every minute. and there are many questions in general, not only digital fashion or virtual fashion, but also a question of, in general, digitization, how it's reshaping things. But apart from this kind of visual aspect that you were drawn from beginning, and the fact that you, are so interested in working with Clo 3D, and as you said, you're addicted to it, which is quite strong word, but it sounds funny. I'm curious to hear about, about your ideas around responsibility in digital fashion. So there are many claims around digital fashion being very sustainable or being alternative to all fashion problems, like a quick fix. This is also part of my, everyday work. But I usually say, well, it depends, because we're still needing a lot of data, a lot of research, and it's all still kind of happening. But one of those things which contribute to digitization and making fashion in some way better is virtual sampling. So how do you think, what is it? Could you tell us what is it and how it is related to sustainability in fashion?
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I also feel confused when people start to like eco digital fashion to sustainable, because I joined this as a pure, hobbyist. So I also insist using virtual fashion instead of digital fashion at the beginning, because I was only doing things that didn't exist in physical at all, just out of my imagination, and was not intended to exist in physical form. So for me, that was virtual. But then I realized everyone's using digital, because we're also talking about the digitalization of physical fashion. That was also what I got into later. So now I think digital fashion is broader, and it suits what I'm doing now, because I'm doing kind of both things that only exist digitally, or digitalization of physical fashion, which is a more engaging part to a degree, because I feel like it's that part that actually helped me go back to the big fashion industry, because I feel like virtual fashion was more like 3D art kind of area, but it was only when I started to do digitalization of physical fashion brands pieces that I feel like I'm actually entering the fashion world with my perspective. And it depends on the scenarios. It's either indie individual designers who have this idea, but they can only do 2D sketches or very rough sketches. Even some are not even professional at doing sketches, but they want to see their design in 3D before they produce it, so they can secure everything is right. And I join in that part to kind of guess what they want from their 3D sketch, and also through communication. And then once I have the virtual presentation of their design, they can better communicate with the manufacturer to get what they want in one go, or I'd say less runs than they would have need to go through if they just go with the sketches. So in that sense, I guess it saves some rounds of physical sampling. And some designers did use my so you can export the exact pattern, 2D pattern from Clo 3D, and just give it to the manufacturer and they can do it. And in that way you don't need to test different fabrics anymore, test different avatar sizes anymore, because those they can all be done digitally. And so
I have a question. So do you see yourself when you do that, like kind of bringing it back to traditional fashion dictionary? Are you a pattern maker? Are you a designer, or is it a blend? Like what does it imply?
I feel like it's really a blend, but how to say, since I'm not from fashion background myself, I feel like I'm not at that position yet to actually be the equivalent of the previous. For the same workflow, traditionally you would need a designer who just do the 2D sketch and all the colors you want, all the details you want, but in written form, and then they give all this information to pattern makers, and will also be someone only focused on grading, I think, like for different sizes. So there are like 4 or 5 rings on this chain, I feel like, but the intention of Close 3D, I believe this company's goal is to merge all these 5, 6 roles into one digital fashion designer. But I myself is not, I don't think I'm that professional yet. So I see myself, someone in the transition to help bring more people onto this process. So someone more from a more professional background than me can actually do this in the future to replace this whole chain.
Mm-hmm. And like how, so could you said how it is for like smaller individual indie designers and brands. How does it work, you think, for bigger fashion brands?
So I've also worked for bigger fashion brands, but through a design agency. So this design agency called INDG, based in Netherlands. They basically do any digitalization of any products for not just fashion, but also for like products and furnitures and everything. And I joined their fashion department to as a freelancer to sometimes do visual presentation of some big brands collection, like before they were officially produced or before they were traded, how to say. So it was more like for in-house communication, visual communication between different stage of the whole retailing experience. Sometimes it was for the retailers to place the order. Like it's not for the final customers, but for like shopping malls or something to have something to see so they can place the order already before it's fully produced. But I feel like, the same problem, like I feel like digital fashion designers are not trust enough yet to replace all the traditional equivalents. I feel like we were mainly used as like what we were doing was mainly used as a tool to help internal visual communication, but they would still have the pattern making team to actually do the pattern. So we're like kind of helping each other, but not totally replacing them yet. But I feel like in the future, this should be more integrated to like one department or something.
That's interesting. And when we think about virtual sampling, do you think that apart from making it more cost efficient and obviously, saving up the resources, are there also kind of, I don't know, other aspects to it? I'm not going to say downsides or bad things, but I'm thinking, now there were like numbers resurfaced that Shane, a massive fast fashion company, is super successful because they have so many new different styles added every day to their website. And I can imagine that virtual sampling will also allow to very quickly create new looks and styles. So how can we, on one hand, we can say it produces more responsible, sustainable, and more efficient fashion industry, but then it can also really fuel this kind of mass consumption, mass production. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, true, very true. So it was almost scary for me to see how fast a look can be done in Clo, like compared to a traditional process, especially if someone like me who's not from the very professional fashion background, but more like from a 3D background. So we understand 3D programs very fast, I'd say, and we can make something out of it very soon, even without details. But I guess that might be enough, for those platform you said, like Shine. I guess that was one of the most controversial ones nowadays. I think they were actually planning to have their own school just to train people to use this kind of software to generate a pattern really quickly, and also plus the help from AI, so they can just merge trends, elements, and so it would be scary if those are just put right away into production. Then it's really quick, so there's no time for us to reflect on is this like proper, is this legit? But I guess someone is trying to do that. And but on the good side, I feel like Clo or similar other programs, they're also thinking of these. They're also trying to make their tool more for the goods, like I think Clo is originally a Korean company, like they have a kind of Korean roots, so they collaborate with, I think, Korean's biggest fabric manufacturer, maybe called Swatchon. And so Swatchon has like all kind of fabric, like shiny ones or like all kinds of unique fabrics, and then they digitize all these fabrics properties and put all these parameters into Clo 3D, so you can drag these fabrics virtually on your piece to see how they would look like. So they don't need to send you all the samples for you to choose one fabric. You can just like choose one virtual fabric from this integrated part library in Clo, and then it will be exactly that factory from this manufacturer. So I feel like, in that sense, they're trying to make sense, that they're trying to speed up the part that should be sped up, like how to say, instead of being taken too much advantage of. So I feel inspiring because I feel like they are like competing, the good how to say, the good usage and the bad usage. They are like helping each other to speed up. So I feel like it's in a sense a good competition to be happening, to also encourage all the people in this industry to think.
I think whenever we talk about innovation and technological progress, it always will have good things and bad things. I think it's important with digital fashion not only to be super hyper ecstatic about it, but also see a fuller picture, because then only you can actually think like, oh, okay, so this is possible, this is what we can do, and only kind of from this holistic awareness we can really kind of move forward. So I think but obviously that's like kind of impossible to have like a technology that doesn't have a downside to it. But I wanted to ask you not to kind of be like saying like, oh, there are horrible things about digitization of fashion, but what are other ways in digital fashion is making fashion industry more sustainable? Can you think of any other examples that are interesting to you?
So there's an initiative called Zero Waste Design. So they're trying to advocate zero waste design, as in when you cut patterns, you don't leave any waste of the fabric out. So you try to always include everything within a rectangle that is the original shape of the fabric you got. So I attended some of their workshops, and I found it quite inspiring because it actually suits how clothing was made in China and also in Japan, I think, because we used to wear quite squarey fabrics, and it's mainly the draping but not the fitting. So I found it inspiring that one of the founders, they also joined some sportswear brand to apply zero waste design in a sportswear line. So I saw sportswear need to be quite fit. I didn't know that's possible to also. So they're using many tricks like to cut the pockets out of the waist or something like that to actually use up the waist. So I found that was interesting. And talking about Chinese clothing, I feel like sustainability in a broader sense for me is also to make classic clothing or outfit in history to last longer in people's memory, how to say, to make them actually timeless. So there are many historical pieces that were story, but they're either like just like sealed in some museum or just in historical pictures, and you can't access them anymore. But there are also people trying to digitizing historical clothing to make them bring them back to life again in digital
So
form.
I have a question. So to you, because just to kind of understand, so it's interesting to now digitize that kind of design that was zero waste and made for longevity, or is it that digital, or maybe both, that digital fashion designers, virtual fashion designers should also kind of keep that in mind? Because like working in a digital environment, then it's almost a question like, how do you design for longevity? So one is kind of this following up in those footsteps of this heritage and this kind of thinking, and the other one is kind of digital specific only.
Interesting. So I guess that would bring NFT and Metaverse, these kind of topics in. So I played in the Metaverse Fashion Week shortly ago, and I wasn't into the concept of Metaverse before because I feel like why there are many debate out there saying why would we spend even more time online and we should go out, like touch grass and go to the park, something like that. But yeah,
some flowers.
But I was actually quite obsessed with it, with the Metaverse Fashion Week. I feel like there are like small innovation everywhere, and since it's open world, you like came across like 10 small surprises on your way, and then it left a very positive general impression. You just feel like everything can be creative, and it was.
Yeah, but like, how can we link it to the zero waste? Because I
True.
wanted to look back on that, So
True.
one could say like, oh, all of this digital fashion that's made, it's like a glitch, and then there's going to be a new, I don't know, Web3 or Metaverse iteration, and then it's gone. But then also, on the other hand, I had a student in the past, and I loved her work. She was very interested in how to preserve a very traditional kind of beading, so making embroidery and beading from one particular part of India, and how to use, for example, digital design. It was like I don't know, or I think it was even before the pandemic, really, like maybe at the very early stages of pandemic, for sure, more than 2 years ago. And she said that we can use digital fashion to also preserve the craft and like visualize it, and like kind of kind of like a knowledge. There's a term for that I forgot. Like that you can perpetuate the knowledge about craft, how it was made and how it was done. So so then it's amazing usage because you can do it. But then on the other hand, creating I don't know, garments to be worn in Decentraland, like Metaverse Fashion Week. How is that? That also, is it waste or is it zero waste, and how we can make them zero waste? I'm like kind of thinking of those two tracks right now.
Okay. Wow, I think it's tricky to define zero waste in digital only clothing because, so I guess I saw in the essay someone called now it's already like post NFT era. So all the NFTs are trying to have more utilities aside from apart from the art itself. So I feel like as digital fashion NFTs, they're trying to keep all the functions. Like they want you to wear them, to be able to wear them in Metaverse or in on your photo. Or I feel like it's more like it sounds less waste for me than if it's just a one-time art to be looked at. But I don't know if that's the right definition.
Yeah, so it's a question what we can do. So for you, I can hear that you're very interested in how we can bring, kind of innovate the process of production and supply chain. So this is very clear, right? Then another aspect is like visual, also kind of stemming from that. So one is like pattern making and visual. Then you can also do like visual communication, and I don't know, you can do editorials and shoots with virtual models, with virtual humans, with digital clothes. But then the question of a beautiful product itself, should it be like this, something that we just admire, but should we be able to wear it and how we wear it. What does it even mean to wear digital fashion outside of the production cycle only? So when it becomes actual product. So this is a very good question. I've been thinking a lot lately about, what's the body that carries, like what bodies carry this digital fashion. So, and there's another thing, sorry, it's like very multi-layered question. But, once for example, once architecture started being digitally designed, the body of the user, the human physical experience is removed. So I'm also thinking, what does it do, and what is the relationship basically for you between body and digital fashion?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Thank you.
I feel like, yeah, like you said, the absence of body might be the most key elements about body in digital fashion in early stage, as I can recall, because I remember digital fashion became so visually surprising for people because the clothes can walk on themselves. Like, you don't need the avatar. You can hide the avatar and then just only render the clothes. I feel like that was opening a new genre of visual, just to have like a ghost catwalk.
The hollow man.
Yeah, the hollow kind of catwalk. And I think by doing those, we were kind of digital fashion designers were like smartly avoiding all those racist topics about body shapes, about our body shame or everything, by just not showing the body at all. So we can say, yeah, this is inclusive. And it is also to a degree because digital fabric can be just like stretched as much as you can, so you can fit the same design you did on any body. If they want to wear it, on their photo or on their same measurement avatar, and it is possible. So to a degree, I guess digital fashion is more, it does fit all, but it can also change color so to match your skin tone, or in that sense, it does bring new possibilities. But I feel like it I don't know, in the end, you still need to deal with the same problems as physical fashion, I feel like, because it's the same people interested in it and same people doing this. I feel like it end up falling back into the same, value system. It was...
And how do you do it in your work?
In my work?
How do you approach this kind of... invisible floating body, because it's still in the end, even if you leave those like garments kind of floating and moving in some void, in some kind of CGI environment, there is still certain like length of a thigh, or there's certain thickness of the body, and those body parameters are usually still quite specific, and very easily we could say this is definitely a body of a model from Poland who's 19 and maybe not necessarily someone else. So there's still this legacy of this particular body being carried, even if it's just a hollow kind of representation. So I'm curious if that's something that you kind of try to challenge when you work, or not really, or you're waiting for the software to be more... Can software, because I'm not a avid clothes 3D user, can you kind of stretch the possibilities of that?
Yeah, in the software you can change the measurement of the avatar easily. So if you want a big model, you can have a big model easily by just typing in different measurement. And I feel like different, the fashion of different times for a focused body type is kind of depending on what's the audience, like what's the main audience group that we are doing designs for. So, like back in, 40s, 50s, maybe we appreciate more wavy bodies because we try to appreciate housewives who are, preparing food for the soldiers or something like that. And then the boomer, when they were teenagers, I read that fashion or switch to serve the teenagers' skinny body type more, because they were the new generation. There was like suddenly a whole new generation of teenagers, so fashion also became more like geometry to fit their body type more. And I feel like
but kind of following that logic today, we would say, because there's a mass kind of teenager obesity on the global scale issue. So now it should be a bit different. But yeah, definitely, who is it made for? It's an important question.
So after the visit to Decentraland's Metaverse Fashion Week, I feel like for our current ability to build a open world metaverse, the avatars are kind of simplified, so we don't have that detailed on body shapes anymore. Not anymore, like so far, not yet. So I feel like to fit those avatars, you kind of need to think of kind of cartoonish, because you can't show much of the waistline or anything anymore, because everyone's kind of a block. So it's more about, so people are trying to buy fashion that's having like more like a rather shocking element, like you're riding a shark, or you have like a bomb on your head, something dramatic. I feel like that would be the trend to match what bodies we have now in Metaverse, because and many people that are interested in NFTs are male. I think like I don't know, I don't have data, but I feel like at the current stage, male investors are more than female, so I feel like they're bringing streetwear for boys back. I don't know, to the main stage, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, definitely the dramatic factor was visible during the Metaverse Fashion Week. But let's maybe shift a little bit from the consumer's body, the digital fashion user body, to the designer's body. So like actually you and other fellow creators. Do you think that digital and virtual fashion designers will be new stars, because we have this kind of heritage of Alexander McQueen, the great creator? Or do you think in a more like a dystopian scenario, there will be, invisible, they'll be behind brands, and fashion will follow in the footsteps of today we call, digital labor issues? It will perpetuate lack of transparency. I don't know. We'll see a lot of digital sweatshops, people sitting and just kind of creating digital garments en masse. Like you kind of mentioned this educational initiative that's coming from China. In which direction do you see it going?
I think it might be a bit polarized. I feel like there will be a few like star designers, like in physical design, who has been. I think there are already some, like Stefan Fon and many others who has entered the game early and has been very active. And I think since.
Could you give like a few examples, a few names who you would consider them to be?
Yeah, like I just said, Steffi Fong is the one that I like, and I don't know if Harriet Davy can be counted as digital fashion designer, but she's a digital avatar designer. So, and there are also several houses like Ouroboros. They eventually doing their own design as well. So, and they're also digital only. And all my fellow designers at Exa Couture. So it's like a digital fashion platform. Yeah, like also like a polygon dressing for dematerialized. I think there are quite a few that already made a certain degree of fame in the game. And I think it's also thanks to the social media and all these digital tools, because this is digital content in the end. So I feel like if they are good with digital platform, then they can help spread their works more. And but I feel like true. On the other hand, there will be many invisible designers kind of using by bigger brands as or platforms as kind of digital labor, because I feel like it's getting better now, but I feel like at the beginning of my career, like during the pandemic, many people were interested in the idea, but they can't accept the price that they need to pay for something that is virtual. Like the mindset is not there yet to be ready to pay fairly for digital labor, because they think it's not something that you can hold in hand. So, but I feel like now it's getting better. So yeah, I think in that sense, there should also be more, like professions dealing with digital tax, digital laws, or try to improve the whole infrastructure for all these things to get legit treatment.
So if you were to give, I don't know, a future fashion people who are listening to this podcast, or like fashion workers, from brands or individual, when they work with virtual fashion designers, what would be the tips, to kind of be fair and I don't know, not follow into the footsteps of like digital labor exploitation?
Yeah, I think it's actually if the clients are new to the word, I think it's part of the designer's responsibility to also educate them how it works at the beginning, to make everything clear. Like if you want another round of change, then it will be charged, something like that. So designers should also form communities like Digital to help each other, like to share, like we do share some format of contract, like how we should charge, or we also discuss how much is it fair to charge for some kind of work. So if everyone can agree on a format, then I think it's better to also educate the new clients about it. And then I think the Institute of Digital Fashion and Ouroboros, they're doing that. They're doing a very good example for the following designers too. They always say, because Caddy, like the one of the founders of the Institute of Digital Fashion, she was also the head of Digital, so she always like told us to be firm about your codes, and we always encourage each other about how to say retain your value, to value your own work first before you can.
So there is some kind of form of community and leadership in the space. So do you see, for example, in future digital fashion designers unionizing or creating DAOs, things like that?
Yeah, very possibly. I think maybe it's already happening. I think digital is kind of like down now already. Like it's quite decentralized.
Is it? Okay.
Well, we didn't say that, but I feel like it's quite decentralized now. Like we are 300 all over the world, and we just anyone raise a question and someone else can answer it in the group. Yeah, I think.
Great. Great. So I'm hoping for fair and more collective futures for virtual fashion designers and digital fashion designers. And that virtual sampling will be more part of reality, not only kind of a tool for visual communication, that it can actually live its full potential, because that would be exciting to see, and definitely would have much more impact than the way it's being done today. Thank you so much, Yifan, for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.